Oh, hello, everybody. Well, hey, happy Friday to everybody. It's Gnyp Gnop. I am Greg Gnyp. There's Chris Yasinski. How are you, my friend?
We're here.
Gnop to my Gnyp.
We're here. We're here, finally.
It's a little bit late, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes waiting is it's that anticipation. What was the commercial? Anticipation.
There was a ketchup commercial.
That's right. You're right. And I don't think I've ever actually been that excited for ketchup.
It's a ketchup commercial, dude. It's a ketchup commercial.
It's Friday. I got to be honest. I'm a little bit off kilter today.
Are you?
I enjoyed a patio yesterday.
Oh.
And it was nice, but I didn't even drink a lot. I have to be honest. I didn't really drink that much. But sitting in the sun,
yes, and
kind of just feeling that slightly normal as I can ever feel. Like it just felt good to be outside. But I have to say, the restaurant we went to sit on the patio, oh my God, how they were so professional, so good, and it was just nice to see. And the waitress, I hope people do what we did, because our bill came to let's just put it this way: we tipped her 44%.
Nice,
because. Let's be honest.
She had to put up with you.
She had to put up with me, and she hasn't been working in a really long time. And she was amazing. You know, as she put it, she said, "Hey, listen, if I make a mistake, and I'm like, listen, if you make a mistake, you haven't worked in 6 months, so it's cool. As long as you bring me a beer, I'm okay." Yeah.
Be patient, be kind. And just have some fun to each other, Come on.
It makes life a lot easier when you're like that. Now that all the crazy rain is over as well, holy cow! I woke up to thunderstorms this morning.
Yeah, and there's some more coming, so get ready for it.
Well, I'll have to take the pack out for a walk, and then Well, even though I said I probably wasn't going to have anything to drink, I lied.
I twisted your arm.
But I'm going to go light today. I am going to go light.
Okay.
And I've done this one before. It's the Mutants Are Revolting. It's a sessional IPA. It's a crushable beer from Flying Monkey.
Let's do a close-up of that one. Nice. And let me just kind of do a disclaimer here for people. We're not infomercials. We don't bring, like real estate guys on and talk about housing and stuff like that, and get paid. This is not what we do. This is strictly for fun, and we actually buy our own booze too, by the way. It's a Bacardi Mojito.
Nice.
Yeah. I just like the single serve, already prepared, ready to go, In the studio, we don't have the luxury of all the room to mix our drinks.
Now, to be fair, though, if somebody did want to call me up right now or call us up right now and say, "Hey, we'll give you $50,000 to help us sell a house," I can be bought. I was in commercial radio. I worked for Bell Media, so I sold my soul many times.
Yes, you have.
So my soul is yours for a price.
Doing My Pillow commercials.
Yeah, and by the way, that's probably my duct cleaners calling me right now on the other line. So
even though you don't have ducts in your house,
well, and that's the thing. I have no duct work in my house, and when I explained that, I actually had one guy yell at me and go, "That's not true," and I'm like, it's true. I have no ducts.
Yeah.
So I just shake my fist. So. To the people who are watching right now, and if for some reason, if you're wondering, well, cheers,
my friend, cheers.
Now, I should actually be drinking a Molson Export, because that's the beer you get at a Montreal Canadiens game. But I'm wearing my Ken Dryden jersey right now.
Premier star number one.
Le Premier Étoile numéro. What is it? 29, Ken Dryden. And that's what I love. Montreal Canadian games, everybody's French. Chris Yasinski, you're French.
I know.
They can change the name. So Game 3 goes tonight at 8 p.m., and I'm pretty excited about that.
Good luck to the Habs. There you go.
Yes, that's right. Les Habitants du Montreal. So, I'm sweating in my jersey right now. So this weekend, Father's Day. Sunday. It's to all the fathers out there, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy your day. And I mean, both you and I have our fathers have passed away, so
Yes.
it's a little bit bittersweet. I mean, you get to celebrate Father's Day as a father.
Yep.
I've never had anyone come up to me and say that,
Papa,
Greg, you are a father. You know,
Papa,
Papa, do you hear me? I do have to say, though, once I had this one time, this lovely woman came up to me and she said, "Are you Gnyp?" And I went, "Yes." And she said, "Do you remember so-and-so?" And I went, "Of course I did." And I dated this woman for a little while.
Yes.
And she went, "I'm her daughter, and she wanted me to say hi to you." And I kind of went. Then I'm doing the math, carrying the 2, multiplying by 7. But
right.
yeah, no, she didn't come up to surprise me that I was her father.
No such luck.
She just wanted to come up and say hi and say that her mom wanted to send love to me.
Papa?
And I was like,
Papa?
So what do you do? What are you doing for Father's Day?
We have so I have 2 kids, Ethan and Maddie. Ethan's 20, Maddie's 19. And all these years we have a little bit of a specific stuff that we do that day for Father's Day. And it is all centered around watching Field of Dreams.
Really?
It is one of my all-time favorite movies. I watch it every year with my kids. I usually watch it with a box of Kleenex and cry right as soon as the music starts. And, it's kind of a weird kind of thing, but it's such a fantastic kind of father movie.
Yeah.
And it holds up well, and it's just a piece of art. I just love it. Just love the movie. I enjoy doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do.
See, I think that is absolutely wonderful. I mean, and that's what I like. I like those kind of traditional type things.
Yeah.
When you had, when you kind of you fall into a pattern. And I don't want to say a pattern because that's not what I mean. But, it's like the tradition where you just all get together, you do the same thing, and, you look forward to it. You wait for another year to do it all over again.
Yeah. And, I kind of think, when I think about Father's Day, I don't really necessarily think of myself as the dad. I always think of my dad on Father's Day. And, but it's like almost every day I get these little reminders of him, and I go, "Oh yeah, it's my dad," And some people go to the grave sites, right? I mean, I know that my brother might go to the grave site on days like that, and he says it's totally packed. Everybody goes to the grave sites on those kind of big days. But Greg, kind of like every day I get a little reminder of my dad here and there, and it's just he's always in my heart, so I always remember him.
Oh yeah, no, and I see, and that's part of the thing that's going on right now with watching Montreal hockey, because my dad was a crazy hockey fan. Now he was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan,
right,
and I was the Montreal Canadiens fan.
Right.
But my dad just loved hockey, and to this day, still one of the greatest moments of my life. And probably one of the best New Year's Eves I've ever had in my entire life was watching the Montreal Canadiens play the Soviet Red Army on New Year's Eve. It was the what was it called? I think it was called the Super Series, and it was the Russian Red Army was playing a bunch of NHL teams. Instead of playing Team Canada, they came and played some of our best teams. And on New Year's Eve, it was Montreal and the Soviet Red Army. It was a 3-3 tie, and I remember just sitting there on the bed, my dad and me, basically ignoring my mom and my sister, and watching one of the most fascinating hockey games ever. And I was 9 years old.
So this is pre-wall coming down. This is still Cold War.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is when when the Russians would play the Canadians, and like I remember, I think I was in kindergarten or grade 1, and we got to watch the last game of the series when they brought us all to the gym to watch the Russians against the Canadians. And I mean, there was
on those little TVs,
and that was the thing, right? And that was something that bond with my dad, and I would love to have him alive right now to sit and watch like the Montreal Canadiens playing right now, partly because we beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then that would just get under his skin.
Right.
But it was just always that thing. Like, when I was working with the radio station, there'd be those times where I would call my father up and say, "Hey Dad, there's a hockey game this afternoon," and he'd he'd say, well, I'm supposed to be doing some stuff with your mom and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I'm supposed to cut the grass or I'm supposed to do this. And next thing you know is we watched half the game and then he'd go, oh, shit, Iris is coming home. I better do this. And he'd take off, right?
Yeah. And here's a picture of your dad.
Yeah.
It's their wedding picture.
Well, and that would be, and my father would be the one in the tux.
That's right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, just in case anybody ever said. And the thing that I love about my dad too, so that tux was made by my grandfather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my grandfather was an amazing tailor, so he made that tux there. And one of the things though
Snazzy.
was my dad was a dresser. Like he loved to dress in the latest fashions and things like that. And he used to joke with me. He'd be like, I don't know if you're really my son, because I was happy in jeans and t-shirts all my life. And that's the way I've always been. But like when my father passed away, we had a wake for him and some of his students, and it was kind of funny. It was mostly his female students would come up and were saying to my mom all the time, going, we would always want to see what Dr. Gnip was wearing next, because he was always so well dressed. And, like my dad, wore these pastel see, and there it is. That was my attempt at trying to be like my dad.
There you go. You're looking snazzy, sharp.
Thank you. That I think that was 3 nights ago, just because I felt like I needed to dress up for dinner.
Trying to get your Emmy?
Yes, I was getting my Emmy that night. Hello, thank you. But so this Sunday is gonna. I always have that like weird bittersweet moment where I kind of get weepy eyed for a couple of minutes, and I think about my dad and how I wish I could like give him that one last hug.
Yeah. I get that. I really do. My dad had a really unique upbringing. Age of 16, taken out of his home. He was Polish. At that point in time, the Russians and the Nazis were kind of separating Poland, and he went to a Siberian concentration camp for a couple of years. And then the Allied forces signed the agreement with the Russians, and they freed all the prisoners that they had. And my father ended up joining the British Armed Forces.
Wow.
And at that point in time, he had there was a battalion of Poles that were repatriated. They were put in the army, so it was like the Polish army under the British Armed Forces. It's like a Polish battalion. And he was a radio telegraph guy. Fought at Monte Cassino, one of the bloodiest battles in Europe. And his battalion was the one that chased, with General Anders, chased Rommel around the Middle East. And I have this epic picture of my dad. He's the guy on the bottom left-hand corner, looking so snazzy in his army gear in front of the Sphinx and the pyramids. And it's just an epic picture of all time, that part of his heritage of being a soldier in World War II. He died at the age of 92, 8 years ago. So he'll 8.5 years ago, almost 9 years ago, I guess. So we're celebrating his 100th next year. Yeah,
that's very cool. Now, so how old was your dad in that picture?
Good question. I probably 18 or 19, because he was underage, lied about his age to get in, and a whole bunch of things, right? Because if you weren't the right age, then you were stuck in Russia.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that went on. Yeah,
that's kind of funny. Your father lied about his age to get into the army, and we used to lie about our age to get into bars.
That's right.
No, that's amazing. Then when did he come? When did he come this way?
1955. So he went back to England because he fought with the British forces. So they allowed everyone to come back to England, and become British subjects, and they could have stayed there. But my dad heard about, hey, I hear there's jobs in Windsor. So him and his Polish buddy left England to come to Windsor, Ontario, to get a job. Sold frozen meat with a freezer, for a couple of years, and then got a job at General Motors and became a cutter grinder and worked at GM for 35 years. It's a real love story, actually, and the real big love story is the way he met my mom. It was through my dad made friends with somebody here in Windsor, and the guy says, "Hey, you know what? I've got this niece back in Poland, and she's really cute, and she's a nurse." And my dad said, "Oh, okay." So we started writing to her, and they went back and forth, and they married. Sight unseen, really.
Really?
Really.
That's awesome.
Honest to God.
See, I mean, like, to me, I think that's absolutely like you know, I mean, nowadays it's like, you know, there, even if you've never met, you can still do FaceTime and things like that.
Right.
So it's like, you know, this is my picture. I am being sexy for you.
Yeah. And I have 2 older brothers, right? So I'm like the 10th year anniversary gift.
yeah.
If you do the math correctly,
on giving.
Right. If you do the math correctly, my dad turns 100 next year, and I'm 52, 53. You know, just keep doing the math.
I'm proud of him.
I know.
Yeah, no, you know, it's funny. You know, you were saying about going to like the gravesite and stuff like that. That is something that I never do.
Correct. Neither do I.
Like, you know, like it's the weirdest thing. It's like, I think the last time I went out there, I was on my way to like, and I know it's going to sound crazy the way I'm going to say this, to go and buy stones, you know, landscaping stones. And I went, oh, you know, the cemetery's right over there. And I went, and then I got embarrassed because I couldn't remember exactly where the gravesite was.
Right.
And I'm like, and this is probably why I don't come back here very often, you know.
Right.
You know, you know, I have a friend of mine. Her mother passed away a couple of months ago, and she says, you know, that she asked me, she goes, does it get better? You know, like, when does the pain go away? And I said, well, the pain never goes away. You just learn how to deal with the pain, and you just learn how to kind of appreciate little reminders and memories. I mean, it's always there. I mean, sometimes I see, you know, an older guy, and I think to myself, I go, that would have been like my dad, and it would be kind of cool to have that old guy sit on my porch with me and go, you know, let me tell you about fireflies. And it's like, Dad, you've told me that story 8,000 times. One more time. And it'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll listen.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing, but you know, I mean, but the one nice thing is, you know, the thing that, and I'd like to think that my father would be proud of me, of the human being, because one of the things my dad said to me was, listen, Greg, you're never going to be the strongest. You're never going to be the smartest. You're never going to be the fastest or the tallest. You know, he said, but the most important thing in your life is to always be the person that's most proud of the person looking back in the mirror. And I always thought that was an important thing. And, you know, he's like, always be proud of what you do and who you are. You know, I mean, you might disappoint yourself sometimes, but, you know, he's like, don't stab people in the back to get ahead. Don't lie. Don't cheat on, you know, don't ever do this. Don't do that. And, you know, that was always one of my favorite lessons my dad taught me.
Yeah, it's a great lesson, especially if it sinks in, right? I mean, you know, that's the problem, is that you have to learn from those lessons and accept them and then live by them. And that's all great. I mean, for me as a father, the one thing I wish I could give my kids, and for years I talked about this, was empathy. I thought empathy was the greatest gift I can give my kids, knowing that when they grew up, no matter what situation they were in, no matter where they worked or whatever happened, that they'd be able to understand what was going on around them. I think that's something the world really lacks a lot of these days, is empathy. I mean, especially when you know, watch the politics that goes on, and the hatred that flies back and forth, and just the sheer venom from different people, as they just don't understand, right? You haven't walked a day in my shoes, so you have no idea what I go through. So, so I think if you can give someone the gift of empathy and understand that, I think that's where real conversations happen.
Oh yeah, exactly. And, you know, and that was what, and it's funny because, you know, you talk about empathy and things like that. And, you know, my father was one of those kind of guys, and I think
For sure.
He didn't even, and I think he didn't even realize how much empathy he had for people, because, you know, my father was one of these kind of guys. He didn't care if you were the dentist, the lawyer, the street sweeper, or the bus boy.
Right.
He just didn't care. He treated everybody the exact same, and everybody. And as my father would always say, he'd go, "Listen, if there was nothing but doctors, who would pick up the garbage, and think how dirty this world would get?" And then that's when he'd say, everybody is important. Everybody's job is important. And don't treat someone beneath you because they're delivering you your soup. Because because I don't want to do it. And I'm going to compensate that person for doing something that I don't want to do. And right. And I always think about my mom, God bless her, was going to get my father and me. It was a 10-week course at the community college to learn how to do basic mechanics.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Mechanical work on cars. And my dad just went, no. He goes, I don't want to do it. He goes, I respect the mechanic. I bring my car to him.
Right.
And I know the mechanic is trained. He's professional. He is the doctor to the car. I bring my car to him and I pay him because I don't want to do what he's doing, and that's why I respect and that's the way. It was the funniest thing. I mean, my dad honestly put up a fuss, going, "I don't want to learn how to change the oil." The only thing my dad knew how to do was check air pressure and how much oil was in the car.
Yeah, but your dad was also a really brilliant guy. So let's be honest with each other. When I would come over to see you and your dad was home, he was a special guy. He would. Usually he would always have the paper out.
Yeah.
I always have this way. He always had the paper out and he was reading something, and then he'd put the paper down and goes, "Oh, hey, Chris, what's going on?" And have a real conversation with you. Like I was the most important person in the room.
Yeah. And you were, though.
Right.
But I think that was also some of the old school way, because I mean, same thing, coming over to your house, and there was always something to be said. Right. And it was always fun because, again, I mean, I think about sometimes, you and I went to the Dom Polsky a couple of times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And met up with your dad and drank the 8-ounce, things of beer.
Yep.
And, and it was always like a family thing. And I think that's the other thing, though, is that you learned from your dad, is watching the way you are with your wife, work the way you are with your kids. You've learned that from your father, the kind of just giving, you give yourself to them. Your father was a really awesome guy. I mean, he was.
He was, and you're right. I'm not just saying that because he's my dad. Everyone will tell you that he was always happy. And you know what? If I was in a Siberian concentration camp for 2 years, shit, brother, let me tell you, I'd be happy the rest of my life too.
Yeah.
And lived through war and went through all that. He was always grateful. He was always happy. He was always smiling. He was always Eddie. He was always really happy. And
Yep.
and I strive. I wish I was like that. I really do.
Well, you know what? You may not be happy all the time, but you've done a great job, and you had a hell of a role model. And I think I know your dad would be very proud of the human being you are today.
I would hope so. I
think he would be.
I was always really proud of him as well. So, I mean, cheers to our dads.
To our dads, and to everyone's dads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And their moms, too. I mean,
Well, yeah, that goes without saying, but yeah, we'll talk about them some other time.
Maybe another day.
It's nice. It's like I wish I consider myself so lucky to have had the role model I did with my father, and I don't have any kids, but I like to think that because I've been lucky that I've got friends with kids, I've got my cousins, and I can kind of share some of the lessons I learned with them.
Right.
It's funny. There's been, I've got a couple of friends where, sometimes the kids will come to me and they'll go, and I'm like, okay, I know you don't want to talk to your mom and dad about this. What is it? And then we it's not like I'm like, here's what I would, I had a friend who was, whose child was not really happy with their choice in school, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. And I said, listen, just be honest, and it was kind of like that whole thing. I'm like, you can't just all of a sudden go, oops, I failed. And something like that. But, she sat down with her mom and dad, and lo and behold, she changed from her nursing career into now her whole family, like, nurse. She wanted to get into law school. I'm like, that's a pretty decent slide over. I don't think they're going to be like, yeah. So there you go.
Awesome, man.
It's nice to reminisce and talk about our dads, and I hope everybody and if whoever listened today or will listen will hoist a beverage to their fathers and everybody's fathers, and appreciate what we have.
Yeah, I appreciate them for they did the best they could, and I think that's a lesson that we can all learn, is just do the best you can, and there's always different situations out there that things turn, right? People lose their fathers early or lose their kids early, and just be grateful for what you have. So
yes.
Till next week, my friend.
Yes, sir.
This has been Gnyp Gnop. We'll see you guys.